Alright guys, so I'm done with the water lines, the oil line, the oil return to the oil pan I already did, and I kind of explained that. That's pretty straightforward. The angled fittings go to the oil, the turbo, and then the straight goes to the oil pan. And then I also mentioned previously that I did kind of dry fit everything, but I kind of left I didn't pull off the intake for the front turbo just because it is kind of a pain in the ass. What I figured is you have to do this first. No, you have to do this together in one piece and then slide it in and install. If you try doing it separately, there's really not a lot of space for you to do what you got to do. It's very tight in this area. And basically you kind of have the bends opposite direction. So if it's angled, if the pipe is angled this way, the clamp you want to be this silicone tube you want angled this way, so it forms like a very big N, I guess, or something. And then tighten that. Once that's tightened, you're good to go with that and ready to install your intake. Again, very tight, but it does work. So basically what I try to do is have it so the nuts facing down. So there you go. Alright, it's pretty tight. I don't think that's gonna come off. Everything's tight. So that's how the intake sits for the front turbo. It's really tight. Like, this hose in the back is pretty much almost right on it. This drain hose, I think, for the gasoline, like, is sitting right on it. But besides that, everything else clears. So the fact that there's nothing hard hitting it, I think, means it's okay. So next we move on to the rear intake. I'm gonna install the rear intake. I already have this set up and clocked the way I want it. So basically I can get to the hardware from this direction. Basically I'll feed the intake in and then put it into the tube into the silicone elbow. So I'm gonna grab this and show you. So I pre-assembled it this way. I don't really see any other way of doing it. Like, trying to do this while it's in the car, I think, is impossible. You literally have to take this whole thing and feed it in. So the intake is in. You can see it's sitting in this little pocket region. You get to the hardware there and there. It's very tight though. Like, I don't know if it's supposed to be that, like, right up against this and the pipe, this pipe being like directly under it. But I mean, that's kind of how the design is. So, oh well. So since I've finished doing the intake, now I can go on to the next section of the aftercooler installation. So basically, first thing is remove your wheel, which has already been off, and remove the rear left fender liner. So I'm gonna try taking this apart. I know this is kind of like a custom setup that they did for me with this wide body, so I'm gonna see how this comes off because I haven't done it yet. Alright, so I was able to get the 3 clips off and the fender liner. Yours is gonna have a lot more clips than I do, but it seems like if I take this side off first, I can then pull this off. So one thing that's different on my car is I obviously have this downforce scoop, so I'm gonna have to remove that, which is not part of the normal process. So I will need probably like a 10 mil. And it's up. Alright, so guys, the next part to installing the aftercooler is removing this bracket that's supporting the left side of the bumper, rear bumper, and also removing the splash shield. I don't have the splash shield. It got removed because it's kind of pointless now with the body kit, but I still have to remove this. So basically it tells you to cut here, take this nut off. In addition, I have to remove this bracket that comes with the body kit, so I'll do that now. Next, I'm gonna cut this. So I cut that, slipped a little and cut there, but that's alright, it gets covered. So I'm gonna do the next one back there. Alright, so that's cut. Next, I need to take this. So next I need to take this guy out. Alright. So that bracket's off. Alright, so basically it tells you gotta remove this front bracket off, and I'm assuming really you should just take them both off. It just says if you cut it, it's probably a little quicker than taking the whole bumper off to take these pieces off individually as one piece. So I guess there's that takeaway. So I'm gonna try to just do what I did for this one for the rear piece, but in the meantime I'm gonna probably just thread this in so it doesn't fall. Alright, I got that bolt out. So now, it says I need to take this nut off, and then the aftercooler can sit in here. Alright guys, so basically I took that nut out. I put this nut with a flange, this bolt with a flange nut on it, and then that's cleared. So I think, and I also removed the back bracket. So now this is clear and ready for the aftercooler to go in. Alright guys, so I've finished taking the nut out of the back of the car, where the bumper is. And next is basically starting to assemble the aftercooler. So it tells you to install some Honda Bond on these fittings on specific ports on the front and the rear of the aftercooler. So I'm going to do that. So basically it tells you to install these at a certain angle and not to over tighten them. So I guess I'll try that. So for the front, which I'm assuming is this orientation, when I finish it should be pointing kind of down like this according to that picture. Let me just do a dry fit, see if it actually threads on. Yeah, it does. Good. So. That's about right. Yeah. Okay. So I got the fittings on. I tried doing it by hand and I felt like that's not tight enough, to be honest. So I just put a wrench and gave it one extra turn. It doesn't feel like I'm over torquing it, to be honest. So I think it's okay. So the fittings are installed on the Aftercooler. Or intercooler. So basically now we install this into the car. So I'm going to reposition the camera and show how that's done. So I kind of got it in. By kind of, I'll explain what I mean. Basically, I basically tried to, install this the way the process calls out. It's very hard to get it into this area, but it does get in. The only thing is the rear bracket for this intercooler is kind of a pain in the ass to get in, and in addition, like, the studs that are on my car, I don't know if they're like wrong or different, but they're kind of short, so when I put the nut on, it literally like stripped the thread out and I wasn't able to really tighten it. But I think because it's being supported in the front and then it's still sitting on the stud in the back, it's probably alright as is for now. I might have to take the rear bumper off at some point and basically try to like press out that stud and put a new one in or something, which kind of sucks, to be honest, but I mean, like, I don't know. Either way, so yeah, I'm just gonna tighten this, and then once this is tight, I think the intercooler is secured. I might have to disconnect it again just to route the hose that's in the bottom of this, but for now, at least it's kind of in place. Hey guys, so basically I finished installing the Aftercooler on the rear section of the car. Next in the section it tells you to install the intercooler, the front mounted intercooler, water pump, reservoir, and all that stuff. So I took the stuff out of the boxes and I realized I don't actually have the installation package for installing the intercoolers, the front mounted intercooler. So I emailed Science Speed to see if they can send me that, but in the meantime I'm pretty much going to focus on doing what I believe is like the obvious thing that needs to happen, which is taking the front bumper off. And I think there's a cover under the middle of the car where the lines would run to, so I'm going to try to take all that stuff off preliminary, do that video now, and then once I have the package, probably on Monday because they're closed Saturday and Sunday, I can work on doing the next part, which is installing the intercooler, water pump, hoses, and all that stuff. Kind of puts the blame more on their setup. So with that said, I'm going to work on taking the front bumper off right now. Then there's some larger, I believe 17 nuts and bolts that you have to take off in the front bumper area. And then there's, I believe, I have to go through the fender or under the car and reach over, and there's I believe two bolts or nuts that I have to take off from the front corners, and then the whole bumper beam comes off in one solid piece. In addition to that, you have to also take the two corner lights off, or turn signals off, so you can pull it off. So let me start off with the turn signal. Yeah, so I can confirm, you gotta go through the fender liner. So I'm gonna have to take the front fender liner off for both sides to then reach in, take the nuts out, and then be able to continue. Way off. Alright, so they're size 12. Alright, so I think I got all the hardware that I need loose. Basically, there's 3 bolts that secure the front bumper to the front fenders on that side, and then another 3 here. Then there's another 3 on each area behind the turn signal. You kind of have to reach under the car, and then that's great. I forgot the horns are actually attached to the bumper beam. Alright guys, so basically I'm gonna kind of pick up where I left off yesterday. I was basically in the middle of removing the front bumper when my camera overheated or died. I don't know, it just keeps dying on me. So I basically finished pulling the bumper off. Also went under the car and took the center cover where I'm gonna have to route the hoses for the intercooler to the aftercooler. So I did that as well, took it off, put it down next to the car, and basically I should be ready to do the intercooler kit. installation kit. Just need the details from Science of Speed. So with that said, the one thing that I thought about while kind of thinking about the situation is, if I do the installation of the intercooler kit, there's still other stuff in the kit that talks about like the fuel pump and things like that I need to do. It makes sense that if I have to run these lines across, like I have to do something with the fuel tank. Looking online, it looks like if you need to change the fuel pump in the gas tank, you have to drop the gas tank. So that kind of leads me to believe that I need to drop the gas tank to change this fuel pump before I do the intercooler hoses, because that's obviously going to get in the way. So I'm going to kind of stop doing the intercooler stuff now and switch over to doing the fuel system upgrades now. And then afterwards I'll go back to the intercooler, the charge pipes, and then I think at that point the car can be kind of turned on. So with that said, I'm going to start working on taking the fuel out of my gas tank. I did not realize I had a full tank of gas and that I was going to have to drop the whole gas tank to do this. So I bought 4 or 5 gallon fuel containers and a siphoning kit, so I can pump out all 18 gallons in the gas tank into those containers. So yeah, I'll do that next. So basically, I've gotten to the point where I'm gonna now, I bought basically a Pittsburgh siphoning pump, and the outs is leading into the gas tank, into the container. This will go into the gas tank, and I'm gonna try to pump out the fuel into this tank, and then I don't know if it's gonna just automatically start siphoning, or if I have to like pump it all into the container and then swap over. Either way, I'm gonna try it, see how it works. And basically I picked this up at Harbor Freight. I saw the reviews, it sounded like it was really good, so I'm gonna try it. And then hopefully I can get most of this fuel out of the gas tank, so I can then drop it and not have like 170 pounds of fuel coming down on me. So basically what I did is I fed this Pittsburgh transfer pump. Has like a thinner black tube that you could feed in, and I ended up taking that and just slowly trying to work its way in so that it actually goes into the gas tank. I think there's enough now that I could start pumping this. Unfortunately, it doesn't just keep siphoning. You actually have to keep pumping it. So I'm going to open the gas tank, the door, get some fresh air in here, and just keep pumping it. So I basically finished hand pumping the fuel out of the gas tank. So looking in the forums, it seems like a lot of people were saying you can't actually siphon the fuel out of the gas tank. I couldn't get the siphoning process to work, like itself pulling the fuel out, but I was able to hand pump it out of the gas tank through the filler rod. So basically this Pittsburgh set comes with like this thinner line with a special thing that you stick in there. I ended up just wrapping it in electrical tape to help kind of keep it together, because you basically feed this whole thing in very slowly. You're going back in and out until you feel it go past to the point like it's all the way in. Then you pull it out a little bit, connect this hose, wrap it up with tape just to secure it, and then keep feeding it in as far as you can until like you pretty much hit a stop. And at that point, you should be able to pump out a lot of the fuel. I got about 16 gallons out of the tank. I think it's supposed to have about 18 and a half gallons for the service manual. So there's probably still like 2 something gallons in there. So what I think I'm gonna end up doing is putting one of the gas canisters I have under the car, opening up the drain bolt, and just letting the remaining fuel go into the gas tank, the container, and then hopefully that drains the whole gas tank. I think I might have to order like a crush washer as well. I'll have to look to see what size of speed provides or not. But I believe they also say you don't need to fully drain it either to do this, so I don't know. I might not do that, but at least for now I got the majority of the gasoline out of the tank. It was a pain though, like your hand pumping it for like a good hour and a half, just pumping little by little. Not sure why the siphoning process wasn't working. It could be that hand pump just doesn't do it as well, or because it's like a 2-piece part that I taped together to like really secure itself together. It could be there's just a leak of air and it just doesn't allow the siphoning process to occur. So maybe the main takeaway is if you can find a hand pump that has a very thin hose from the actual hand pump all the way to the end of the hose, that's probably maybe gonna work to siphon the fuel out of the gas tank if you need to do that. The smarter thing would have been just don't fill up the tank. I didn't realize I had to drop the fuel tank to do the fuel pump. So lesson learned, don't do what I did, and just use up your fuel before you do the upgrade.